Hi, my name is Reggie. Want to hear a story about how to make money? Well, then look here. Guys, do not forget to put likes, subscribe to the channel, and comment on my story. To begin with, please tell me, at what age did you first start earning money? How much and where? My beginning of the story is a bit sad, but that's what prompted me to pull myself together and start acting, so listen up. I was born into a full family. I have a mother and three sisters, and my father was there until he went out the door for bread. We haven't seen him since. Well, about everything by the Strand. As you have already understood, we are a large family. I am the oldest child in the family. My parents wanted to give birth to a girl for complete happiness. My mother could not get pregnant for a long time. The dream of a girl haunted me. My mother cried at night. I heard her praying that heaven would send her another child. Her age was no longer young, and yet she got pregnant. It was a great holiday for us. My father came home early from work when my mother told him the news. I was about 15 years old at the time. Everything was great, and then suddenly changed. When my mother went for the first ultrasound, what they were told shocked both of them. You have triplets, the doctor said. My father could not believe it. My mother was crying, but these were tears of happiness. And when she gave birth, I remember running around the hospital looking for food for my mother. I couldn't wait to see my little sisters. The status of an older brother attracted me, and so 3 beautiful girls were born: Eileen, Leah, and Mia. They were a copy of their father. At first, Dad was beside himself with happiness, but after a week, he realized how hard children are given. In addition to the fact that he began to shirk from helping my mother, he also quietly dumped all the responsibilities of the house on me. I even learned how to cook, clean, wash, and iron. It was terribly hard for me. I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't have time to do any homework. My mother saw it. She was grateful, but it was still harder for her. And then it turned out that it was hard for my father. He could not stand it, and his words about the girls being the biggest reward disappeared somewhere. My father went out to get some bread and didn't come back. We realized this almost immediately when we looked at the table. There were 3 bags of bread. My mother was upset and then desperate. I couldn't watch her suffer, so I started helping her with the girls. Sometimes he could even put them to sleep so that Mom could get some sleep. Did I think I'd quit too? Because that's not what real men do. In the end, the money began to run out and my mother was even more panicked. We were wondering how we should live, and I promised my mother that I would take care of her. After school, I also began to work as a waiter. In the summer, I washed cars, walked dogs, cleaned swimming pools and gardens at neighbors. In winter, I cleaned snow. In autumn and spring, yards from debris and leaves. I didn't get paid to say that a lot, but with a good economy, we have enough for bills, food, and diapers. My mother thanked me every day for everything, but how could I not? To be honest, the first couple of months were still normal, but then it became very difficult. I remember that I started exams at school, and because of frequent absences, I still had to take individual subjects. There was a complete blockage at school, and a lot of problems at work. I accidentally broke 23 plates in a cafe, spilled hot coffee on a visitor, and gave the wrong change. I was deprived of my salary for a whole week. I came home and found out that the girls were sick. I didn't have the money to buy medicine. I didn't even know how to get out of it now, because it was the end. My mother came to me all tearful. She felt sorry for me, but I wanted to stay strong in her eyes. I kissed her and went outside. I didn't know where to go or what to do, and I didn't want anything. I was desperate like my mom. When I crossed the road, I didn't pay attention to the traffic light. I was hit by a car. Oh no, not much. I got off with a couple of bruises because the speed was slow. The woman who came out of there in a panic began to walk around me. It turned out to be the owner of the institution where I worked. I met her at the hospital. Mrs. Viggins was very nice, unlike our receptionist. She called my mother and promised to bring me home, reassured her, explaining that nothing terrible had happened to me. My mother wanted to come, but with 3 children in her arms, it was difficult, so I asked her to stay at home. I told Mrs. Viggins about our situation, and she was impressed and even cried. I have long wanted to fire the administrator. I heard rumors that he steals the cash register, and also steals broken dishes on young waiters like you, and then in this way launders money for supposedly new plates, she said. It was only at that moment that I suddenly realized that I hadn't seen how many plates I had broken or whether it was me, because I was carrying an order when I heard the clatter of dishes behind me. Mrs. Viggins brought me home, left a tidy sum for my recovery and for the girls, and the very next day I came to work for the proceedings. She was right. It turns out that while no one was watching, she set up a camera where you can see how I turn away to carry the order, and at this moment the administrator pulls out a tray with shards and pushes it to the floor, and then pretends that it was me. He asked not to go to the police and return all the loot, but the owner did not forgive him and still called the police. She appointed me to take his place and promised me a promotion. I agreed to start work in a week to close the tales of my studies. Over time, everything improved. My mother couldn't express her gratitude, and I knew how embarrassed she was, but I did it from the heart, and I knew I was doing it right. In the end, I passed all the exams, not perfectly, but it will go. And then I came to the cafe. Mrs. Viggins was waiting for me, and I was glad of it. Almost immediately, I started a new position, began to receive even more money. So a few years passed, the girls grew up, and my mother was looking for a nanny to go to work herself. I was supposed to be going to college by then, and Mrs. Viggins offered me a great option. She promised to pay for half of my studies if I stayed to help her with her business. She had no children and no family, and she liked me, so I gladly agreed. Undoubtedly, everyone has hard times. But the main thing to remember is that all the best is always waiting ahead. What do you guys think?
Hello, everybody. My name is Hazy. I am 16 years old, and already at this early age, I support the whole family. I pay for my brother and sister's studies, buy food at home, pay the loan for the apartment, and many other worries. My life doesn't run like that of my co-evals. For example, I can't go to a cafe, cinema, or other entertainment places. I don't buy a lot of different clothes, and I don't have much free time. But despite this, I try to get a good education. But this was not always that case. As a child, I had the happiest family. We didn't deny ourselves anything. Every year we went to different countries on vacation. My father was an IT information technology specialist. My mother was a housewife. She looked after me and my little brother and sister. By the way, they are twins. Their names are Rudy and Cody. Mom just wouldn't have time to go to work. Although she had her own hobby, she wanted to become a fashion designer. In spare time, she sewed beautiful dresses. I enjoyed watching this process. She was so good at it, and it looked great. And often the whole family would gather around the fireplace in the evening and play various board games. These were cozy evenings. How quickly all good things come to an end. One day, my father went on a business trip for a week. This was not unusual. He was often away. But this time, he didn't come alone. And there was another woman with him, with a slim figure and large forms. My mother was also very beautiful. Father decided to choose her. He said that he will leave to her to live together, and leaves us. That day, he packed up all his things and left. It was a shock for us. My mother did not know what to do next and how to feed the family herself. She hadn't worked anywhere before. I didn't understand why my father did this to us. My mother had no choice but to find some part-time job. At the time, I was old enough to look after my little brother and sister, and my mother started working as a hotel maid. Since she needed a lot of money, she worked almost all day. She also had to pay for the loan. I understood that it took a lot of effort to work and to do household chores. She only slept for 4 hours a day. I somehow tried to help her and tried to take all the responsibilities of the house on myself. She raised the younger ones, kept the house clean and tidy, and even learned to cook. But it was still not enough. My mother needed support. She was morally depressed and often nervous. Because of this, she began to have headaches and she lost a lot of weight and looked exhausted. I forgot to even think about my dream. In addition to my chores, I started walking my neighbor's dogs after school. For this, I was given $5 for each. I took my little sister and little brother together and walked. they liked to play with the dogs. And looking at how much fun they had with them, I remembered our cozy times next to the fireplace. This made me feel happy and at peace. And I was very fond of dogs. One day I got my mother's sewing machine and tried to make a dress for my mother myself. I wanted to make her happy so that she would forget all her worries and sorrows, at least, for a minute. Persistently and diligently displayed every line on the dress. But in the end, I got something small and confusing. After a little thought, I came up with the idea to change some elements from making clothes for a dog. I still have a talent from my mother. And soon I made a beautiful miniature dress. I was very happy with my work. The next day, on another walk with the dogs, I tried to put this dress on one of them, namely the little Spitz. The sizes all matched and the dress fit very well. Spitz looked even cuter in it. I decided to give her my creation. On the way home, everyone started looking around and looking at the dog with great interest, and the landlady was delighted with her. In gratitude, she bought a suit for $15. I refused to take money for a long time, since it was my gift, but persistently gave and thanked. I was delighted that everyone liked my mini dress. The next day, the same hostess asked me to make a couple more suits. And in addition to this, she said that she has 2 other friends who would be happy if they sewed for them. I didn't sleep until morning that day. It was a huge creative process. But by the time I was happy, I had done everything. Both the dogs and their owners were very happy. Since then, I still sew different sets of clothes for pets. And I even have my own little mini collection. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't make a bad living on this. But despite my work, I try to keep up and not miss school. My sewing brings me great pleasure, and I don't really want to spend my free time on other activities. And my mother is very proud of me. And she doesn't have to work too hard anymore, but she still goes to work so she doesn't have to put all the responsibilities on me. And I was happy with everything. And I have one dream. I want my mother to start her hobby again and become a good fashion designer. I hope everything will still come true.